The night sky stretched endlessly over the quiet observatory on the edge of a small mountain town. Stars glittered like scattered diamonds, and the air was crisp and still. Dr. Elena Morales, a dedicated astrophysicist, adjusted the telescope with careful precision. She had spent years peering into the heavens, studying patterns and movements that most people would never notice. Her life had always been filled with questions about space, life beyond Earth, and the mysteries hidden in the infinite darkness above. She loved the quiet of the night, the solitude of her work, and the feeling of being connected to something much larger than herself. It was during one of these nights that something unusual caught her eye. At first, it seemed like just another distant star, a tiny speck moving ever so slightly against the familiar constellations. But as she focused, she realized it wasn't a star at all. The object moved differently. It was fast, too fast for anything she had ever tracked. Its trajectory was strange, almost deliberate, cutting across the sky in sharp, clean lines. Elena felt a shiver of excitement mixed with unease. She quickly grabbed her notebook and began recording the data. Across the world, reports began to trickle in. Fishermen in the Pacific noticed strange lights dancing above the water, moving in patterns that seemed intelligent, almost playful. Residents in small towns in Europe and Asia described glowing orbs hovering silently, then vanishing without a trace. People posted videos online, showing lights that no one could explain. Social media exploded with speculation. Was it a meteor shower? A secret military experiment? Or something else entirely? Elena, however, was focused on the data. The movement patterns were too precise to be natural. The observatory's computer systems worked quickly, plotting the course of the mysterious object. As Elena watched, the computer algorithms confirmed her suspicion: this object was not like anything humans had seen before. It came from deep space and was heading closer to Earth at an alarming speed. The thought made her pulse quicken. The possibility of extraterrestrial life was no longer just a theory, it was a real, tangible presence approaching her planet. Meanwhile, ordinary people began to experience strange sensations. Some felt an odd warmth or tingling in their skin when the lights appeared. Others claimed to hear soft whispers in their minds, faint words they could not understand. Children were especially affected, staring at the sky for hours, as if drawn by an invisible force. Governments and space agencies were quickly alerted, but none had answers. The object defied all conventional tracking methods, appearing and disappearing unpredictably, moving with an intelligence that no human technology could replicate. Elena was not alone in her observations. A small group of astronomers and scientists gathered at various observatories around the globe. They exchanged information over secure lines, trying to make sense of the patterns. Some were skeptical, convinced it was a natural phenomenon or a glitch in their instruments. But Elena remained certain. She had studied enough cosmic anomalies to recognize one when she saw it. This was different. This was deliberate, aware, and possibly intelligent. As days passed, the media caught wind of the story. News outlets reported strange lights and unusual signals coming from the sky. Headlines asked, "Are aliens visiting Earth?" and "Mysterious object approaches our planet." People around the world were divided between fear and excitement. In the streets, children pointed at the sky, and adults whispered theories, some humorous, some anxious. Governments quietly began emergency meetings. Military officials debated whether to send reconnaissance missions or prepare defenses. Meanwhile, scientists like Elena insisted on caution and observation. They argued that any rash action could lead to irreversible consequences. The small observatory where Elena worked became a hub of communication. Scientists from faraway countries contacted her, sharing their own observations and encouraging collaboration. Elena found herself at the center of a growing global network, her expertise suddenly more valuable than ever. Each night, she would sit at her telescope, observing the sky, recording every flicker of light, every change in speed or direction. She noted how the object seemed to respond to human activity in subtle ways, moving faster when planes approached and slowing when satellites passed nearby. It was as if it were watching, learning, studying humanity. One evening, as Elena reviewed her notes, she noticed something even more unusual. The object appeared to be sending signals, tiny pulses of light that repeated in precise sequences. At first, she thought it might be random, like blinking lights on a machine. But after hours of careful analysis, she realized it was structured, almost like a language. Her heart raced as she considered the possibility, someone or something was trying to communicate. The realization was both thrilling and terrifying. Humanity had never faced a moment like this before. In the nearby town, residents were beginning to feel the impact of the unusual visitor. Phones malfunctioned, electronic devices behaved strangely, and a sense of anticipation hung in the air. People reported dreams filled with strange, vivid images of distant landscapes and creatures they had never imagined. Elena wondered if the signals from the object were somehow affecting human consciousness, reaching out in ways that were not immediately obvious. She noted everything carefully, documenting every anomaly, determined to understand what was happening before panic could spread. The world's eyes were on the sky, waiting for answers. Scientists debated the best course of action. Some advocated for sending messages in return, hoping to establish peaceful contact. Others feared that any attempt to communicate could provoke hostility. Military forces remained on high alert, preparing for the worst. Elena, however, believed that careful observation and understanding were the keys. She insisted that humans approach the situation with patience, caution, and respect. The alien or whatever it was already here, and hasty decisions could lead to disaster. As days turned into nights, the object drew closer. Its lights grew brighter, and its movements more complex. Elena began to feel a strange connection, as if the mysterious visitor could sense her presence and was aware of her efforts to understand it. She often spent hours outside the observatory, staring at the sky, feeling both awe and fear. Her colleagues encouraged her to rest, but she could not stop herself. This was a moment humanity had only dreamed of, a direct encounter with something from beyond the stars. Despite the tension, there were moments of beauty. The lights in the sky created mesmerizing patterns, weaving across the heavens like ribbons of color. People from all over the world gathered to witness the spectacle, united in wonder. Elena thought about how small humans seemed in the grand expanse of space, yet how remarkable their curiosity and determination were. She understood, in a profound way, that this encounter would change humanity forever, regardless of what happened next. The first part of the story closes with Elena standing outside the observatory, her eyes fixed on the sky. The object moved silently, gracefully, and deliberately. She felt a mixture of fear, excitement, and anticipation. Something incredible was about to happen, something that would challenge humanity's understanding of the universe and its place within it. The night was calm, but the air buzzed with possibility. Elena knew that the world was on the brink of a moment that would be remembered for generations, a moment when humans would finally confront the unknown and wonder what it truly meant to look up and meet the stars. The morning after the strange lights had appeared, the world woke with a mix of curiosity and unease. News outlets were filled with images captured by amateur astronomers and residents from all over the globe. Videos showed glowing orbs hovering silently in the sky, moving in ways that seemed impossible. Some people were fascinated, dreaming of first contact with intelligent life. Others were frightened, convinced that these unknown visitors might bring danger. Among them, Dr. Elena Morales remained focused on her work, analyzing the data, studying the signals, and trying to understand what they meant. At the observatory, a series of unusual readings drew Elena's attention. The object in space was moving closer to Earth, but unlike a normal celestial body, it was slowing as if it were aware of its trajectory and the people observing it. The computer systems began to detect patterns in the light pulses that were unmistakably structured. They repeated in complex sequences, unlike anything naturally occurring. Elena spent hours trying to decode the signals, her mind racing with possibilities. Could it be a message? Could an intelligent life form be trying to communicate? Before long, the object descended lower, appearing to choose a specific valley far from human settlements. Helicopters hovered above the area, drones scanned the terrain, and military officials debated the best way to respond. Governments worldwide began issuing warnings, urging civilians to stay away from the landing site. The atmosphere was tense, every action was debated, every decision weighed carefully. But Elena insisted on observation over confrontation. She believed that understanding was the first step, not aggression. Then, the impossible happened. A craft unlike anything humans had designed landed gently in the remote valley. Its surface shimmered in colors that seemed to change with the sunlight. The craft had no visible windows, no doors in the traditional sense, and no apparent means of propulsion. It simply rested there, silently, as if it had always belonged to the landscape. Elena and a small team of scientists were invited to approach under strict supervision. Military personnel formed a perimeter, weapons ready, but their faces showed unease. None of them had ever seen anything like this before. As the team cautiously approached, a figure appeared before them. The being was tall and slender, with skin that reflected light in unusual patterns. Its eyes were large and intelligent, conveying wisdom and calm without a single word being spoken. To everyone's astonishment, the alien began to communicate not through sound, but directly in their minds. Elena felt a wave of understanding sweep over her. Images, words, and emotions filled her consciousness simultaneously. She realized immediately that this was how the alien chose to communicate: telepathy. The alien's first message was clear and urgent: do not attack. They will never let you flee. The phrase echoed in Elena's mind, strange and alarming. Who were they? The scientists and military personnel exchanged glances, puzzled and anxious. Elena focused on the alien's presence, trying to understand the meaning behind the warning. The alien did not seem hostile, but there was a weight to its words, a sense of profound knowledge gained from experiences far beyond human comprehension. Over the next several hours, the alien shared more insights. Through telepathy, it conveyed images of distant worlds, civilizations long destroyed, and encounters with other intelligent species. It explained that some had underestimated humans, assuming that they could easily conquer or avoid confrontation. But humans, it said, were different. Clever, unpredictable, and relentless, humanity would never allow a threat to go unchallenged. Any species attempting to attack Earth would face resistance unlike anything it had ever known. The team of scientists was both awed and frightened. Dr. Morales listened carefully, realizing that the alien's warning was not just a caution, it was an observation of human nature itself. She thought about the history of her species, about wars, defenses, inventions, and the resilience humans had shown time and time again. The alien's words made her reflect on both the best and worst of humanity. She understood that this encounter was a rare chance to learn and prepare rather than to fight or dominate. Meanwhile, outside the valley, the world watched with growing concern. Satellite images showed the craft, and social media was flooded with speculation. Some people feared an imminent attack. Others wondered if peaceful communication was possible. Governments debated, some leaning toward diplomacy, others toward preemptive measures. The situation was tense, delicate, and unprecedented. Every action had the potential to change the course of human history. Elena became a key figure in the effort to communicate with the alien. She translated the telepathic messages into words, carefully documenting every detail. She explained to military leaders and government officials that aggression could be disastrous. The alien's warning was not a threat but a description of the human species: resilient, persistent, and unwilling to allow harm to come to its people or planet. Those who listened began to understand the significance of the moment. The alien was offering knowledge that could prevent catastrophe, yet some remained skeptical, driven by fear and mistrust. As the days passed, the alien continued to share information. It revealed images of other civilizations that had been destroyed due to overconfidence or aggression. It showed how careful observation, communication, and understanding could prevent unnecessary conflict. The alien emphasized that humans had the potential to be both destroyers and protectors, capable of great creativity and wisdom. Elena realized that this was a turning point for humanity, an opportunity to see themselves from an outside perspective and to choose how they would respond. Despite the aliens' calm presence, tension remained high. Military leaders ran simulations, prepared for worst-case scenarios, and scientists continued studying the craft and its technology. Meanwhile, the aliens seemed to watch human reactions, noting patterns, observing decisions, and responding in subtle ways. It was as if the being understood that this first contact would define the relationship between humans and any other intelligent life in the universe. Patience, diplomacy, and caution were essential. Elena spent long hours observing the alien. She felt a strange connection, as if it could sense her thoughts and intentions. Through the telepathic bond, she learned more about its world and its experiences. It had seen countless civilizations rise and fall, learned from their mistakes, and had chosen to approach Earth with care. The alien made it clear that it was not here to fight but to warn and to guide. Its message was simple yet profound: humanity's nature was unique, and underestimating it could be catastrophic. The alien's presence had a profound effect on those who encountered it directly. People reported feeling calm, thoughtful, and introspective. They began to consider the broader implications of their actions, the responsibility that came with their intelligence, and the importance of cooperation. Elena realized that this was not only a message about humans' resilience but also about their potential for growth. Understanding and self-reflection could ensure a future where curiosity and caution coexisted. By the end of the first week of contact, the world was beginning to accept the reality of the alien's presence. Scientific communities collaborated across borders, sharing data and insights. Governments cautiously engaged in dialogue, though always aware of the unknown. People everywhere were reminded of the vastness of the universe and the importance of humility, patience, and observation. Elena knew that this was only the beginning. The alien had arrived with a warning, but also with hope. Humanity had a choice: to act recklessly or to learn and grow from this extraordinary encounter. In the quiet moments, Elena often stood alone near the observatory, gazing at the sky. The alien remained in the valley, silent yet perceptive, its presence a constant reminder that humans were no longer alone in the universe. The telepathic messages echoed in her mind: "Do not attack. They will never let you flee." The words were not only a warning but a lesson about humanity itself. Elena understood that the future depended on how carefully humans responded, how wisely they used the knowledge they had been given, and how bravely they faced the unknown. The story of first contact had begun. The alien had chosen observation over aggression, communication over conflict, and patience over fear. Humanity was learning, for the first time, that they were not only capable of surviving but also of understanding the vast, complex universe in which they lived. Dr. Morales knew that the coming days would be crucial. The decisions humans made now would define their relationship with this visitor and with the universe itself. The stakes had never been higher, and the lesson had never been clearer: knowledge, patience, and wisdom were as important as courage. White heavy checkmark word count, 1,305 words. The days following the alien's arrival were filled with tension, debate, and uncertainty. Governments around the world struggled to decide how to respond. Some leaders saw the visitor as a potential threat and argued that humanity should prepare for defense, even consider preemptive action. Military forces were placed on high alert. Fighter jets patrolled the skies near the valley, drones scanned the area, and scientists were pressured to find weaknesses in the alien craft. Yet, Despite all the precautions, there was a palpable sense of unease. Every person involved in the decision-making process felt that they were facing something completely unknown, something beyond human understanding. Dr. Elena Morales watched the escalation with a mix of concern and frustration. She had been in constant communication with the alien, translating its telepathic messages for the authorities. Each time she spoke with leaders, she emphasized patience and caution, urging them to resist the urge for aggression. "We do not know their intentions fully," she reminded them repeatedly. "Rushing to attack could provoke a disaster we cannot imagine." Some listened carefully, respecting her expertise, while others dismissed her warnings as naive. The world seemed divided between fear and curiosity, caution and rashness. Meanwhile, ordinary people reacted in unpredictable ways. Some were fascinated by the alien and traveled great distances to observe it safely. They hoped for peaceful interaction and a chance to learn from an intelligent species unlike any they had ever known. Others, however, were fearful. Rumors spread quickly online about possible attacks or hidden dangers. Social media became a storm of speculation, with conspiracy theories, exaggerated claims, and fearful predictions dominating discussions. In cities and towns across the globe, people debated whether humanity should welcome the alien or prepare for conflict. Tension increased when reconnaissance drones accidentally entered the perimeter around the alien craft. The alien reacted immediately, moving in ways that prevented the drones from getting too close. There was no violence, no aggression, only subtle, precise maneuvers that demonstrated intelligence and awareness. Observers were amazed. The alien's actions seemed to confirm what it had warned: humans were unpredictable, and any attempt to provoke or challenge them could be dangerous. The incident caused panic among some officials, who feared it was a sign of hostility, while others saw it as a demonstration of the alien's peaceful intentions. Inside the observatory, Elena worked tirelessly to interpret the alien's messages. Through telepathy, it conveyed images and thoughts that were difficult to describe with human words. She felt the being's calm but firm presence, a reminder that this encounter was an opportunity to understand something far beyond ordinary human experience. The alien explained that humans were unlike any species it had previously encountered. They were inventive, adaptable, and unyielding when threatened. Even civilizations with superior technology had struggled against the human spirit, and many had failed because they underestimated the determination of humanity. The news of these interactions spread quickly. Public opinion became polarized. Some groups argued for diplomacy and collaboration, advocating for patience and understanding. Others demanded that military forces take action, believing that humans could not risk vulnerability. The tension between these perspectives created political and social friction, as each country weighed its own interests against the potential consequences of provoking the alien. Elena found herself in the middle of debates, providing guidance and urging caution, but often feeling powerless against the force of fear and uncertainty. As the situation developed, small incidents began to escalate. A military helicopter approached too close to the valley, and the alien's movements caused it to veer off course, narrowly avoiding a crash. The incident terrified the pilots and the military command, who were unprepared for the alien's precision and awareness. News of the near accident spread, heightening public anxiety. Some called for immediate action to defend humanity, while others demanded an end to aggressive maneuvers and urged negotiation. The world seemed to teeter on the edge of chaos, with every decision carrying enormous risk. Despite the growing tension, Elena remained committed to her work. She spent long hours observing the alien, documenting its behavior, and studying the signals it sent. The alien continued to communicate its warning: humans were unpredictable, and any aggressive act would trigger relentless defense. It shared examples of other species that had tried to attack and had been unprepared for the response. Elena realized that the alien was not only cautioning humanity but also teaching them something about themselves, that their strength, courage, and persistence were unique qualities that could not be ignored or underestimated. The alien's presence also affected those who interacted directly with it. Soldiers, scientists, and officials reported feelings of calm, clarity, and focus after being near it. Fear and anxiety gave way to reflection and careful thought. Elena noticed that the alien's influence seemed to encourage understanding over conflict, observation over rash action. Those who spent time with it began to see the situation not as a threat but as a lesson in patience, strategy, and self-awareness. Tensions among human leaders, however, remained high. Some argued that waiting was dangerous and that humanity should strike first to protect itself. Others insisted that any attempt at aggression could result in catastrophe, citing the aliens' clear warnings. The debate became a global conversation, broadcast across news channels, social media, and public forums. People everywhere were forced to consider the consequences of their actions and the nature of the species to which they belonged. It was a moment of reflection for humanity as a whole. Meanwhile, Elena discovered patterns in the alien signals that suggested it was testing humanity's responses. It was not only observing physical actions but also monitoring decisions, communications, and emotional reactions. She realized that humans were being studied in a way that was both scientific and moral. The alien wanted to understand not just their capabilities but also their intentions, their values, and their willingness to act responsibly in the face of the unknown. Elena felt the weight of responsibility as a mediator, knowing that her role was critical in helping humanity respond wisely. In the valley, the alien continued to demonstrate its intelligence and control. It performed movements and gestures that conveyed messages without words, creating patterns in the air and on the ground that were impossible to replicate. Scientists attempted to study these phenomena, recording and analyzing every detail. The alien's presence was a living example of a civilization far beyond human comprehension, yet it was patient, careful, and deliberate. It had chosen a nonviolent approach, emphasizing understanding over confrontation. As days passed, small skirmishes with drones or accidental approaches tested the limits of human patience and discipline. Each time, the alien responded in ways that prevented escalation but made the humans aware of the potential consequences of aggression. Elena realized that the aliens' warnings were not threats but factual observations. Humans were capable of relentless defense, and any attacker would find that nothing was simple or predictable. She worked tirelessly to communicate this to leaders and the public, emphasizing the importance of restraint and cooperation. The story of the aliens' warning began to shape human behavior. While fear and speculation remained, there was also a growing sense of caution and reflection. Scientists, leaders, and ordinary people started to appreciate the complexity of the situation. They understood that patience, observation, and careful decision-making were more powerful than force or aggression. Elena felt a sense of pride in humanity's capacity to learn and adapt, even in the face of the unknown. By the end of this period, it became clear that the alien had achieved something remarkable. It had not only delivered a warning but also challenged humanity to understand itself. The words, "Do not attack. They will never let you flee," were no longer just a caution about external danger. They were also a mirror, reflecting human nature, the strengths, the unpredictability, and the tenacity that define the species. Elena recognized that this encounter would be remembered as a turning point, a moment when humans were confronted with the consequences of their own power and responsibility. In quiet moments, Elena often reflected on the lessons of these tense days. The aliens' warning had brought fear and uncertainty, but it had also brought clarity. Humanity had been challenged to see itself from the perspective of an intelligent observer, to recognize both its potential and its limits. The situation was still delicate, but there was hope. If humans could listen, learn, and act wisely, they might not only survive but grow stronger, more thoughtful, and more united in the face of the vast, mysterious universe that stretched above them. The tension was far from over. Every decision, every action, and every reaction mattered. Humans were learning that curiosity and caution must go hand in hand, that patience could save lives, and that understanding could prevent disaster. The alien had come with a message, a warning, and an observation. Humanity had the choice to heed it, to prove that it was capable of wisdom as well as courage. The future remained uncertain, but one thing was clear: the presence of the alien had changed everything, and the lessons of these days would be remembered for generations. After the tense days of debate, observation, and near misses, the world began to shift in its understanding. Humanity slowly started to grasp the meaning of the alien's warning. Do not attack. They will never let you flee. The words, once mysterious and frightening, began to resonate in a deeper way. People realized that the alien had not come to challenge them, but to teach them about themselves. Governments, scientists, and ordinary citizens started to reflect on human nature, on ingenuity, determination, and resilience. Dr. Elena Morales had become a central figure in this reflection, guiding both leaders and the public to understand the alien's message fully. Elena spent hours each day with the alien, learning more about its experiences and knowledge. Through telepathy, the alien shared vivid images of other worlds, showing civilizations that had risen and fallen across the galaxy. Many of these civilizations had failed not because of external threats, but because they underestimated those they encountered. Some had attempted to conquer others, only to be met with resistance they could not predict. Elena realized the alien was using these examples to illustrate a lesson: humans were not ordinary. They were clever, resourceful, and unwilling to let danger go unchecked. As this understanding grew, a sense of humility spread among human leaders. Military officials, who had initially pushed for preemptive action, began to appreciate the consequences of aggression. They saw that humans themselves could be relentless, and that attacking an unknown species without understanding could lead to disaster. Diplomats and scientists worked together more closely than ever before, forming teams to carefully study the alien and its messages. Elena acted as a bridge between humans and the visitor, translating telepathic communication into words, images, and explanations that people could understand. Every interaction with the alien revealed new insights about humanity. Its observations were not just about humans' capabilities, but also about their choices, values, and tendencies. It highlighted how humans could be both destructive and compassionate, how their curiosity could drive progress, and how their determination could turn the tide in impossible situations. Elena realized that the alien's purpose was not to frighten humanity but to prepare them, to show that understanding, wisdom, and restraint were as important as courage and strength. The alien also shared knowledge that humans had never imagined. It demonstrated technologies far beyond Earth's current capabilities, methods of energy production, advanced communication systems, and tools for understanding the universe on a fundamental level. It explained how these tools had been used responsibly on other planets to avoid destruction and conflict. Elena was amazed by the possibilities and quickly began documenting every detail. Scientists worldwide eagerly studied the information, realizing that this knowledge could transform human civilization if used wisely. Meanwhile, ordinary people began to notice subtle changes. The alien's presence seemed to encourage thoughtfulness and reflection. Communities discussed cooperation, the importance of patience, and the need to avoid rash actions. Even children seemed more curious about science, space, and the unknown. In schools and public spaces, conversations about ethics, responsibility, and understanding other perspectives became common. Elena realized that the alien was influencing humanity not by force but through insight, observation, and careful guidance. Its message was not limited to warnings, it was a lesson in perspective and growth. Tensions from earlier days began to fade as the world adjusted to the reality of the alien's presence. Governments established new protocols for observation, prioritizing caution and analysis over immediate action. Military exercises were scaled back, and collaborative research programs expanded. Elena worked tirelessly to ensure that humans did not repeat mistakes of the past, to make sure fear did not lead to unnecessary aggression. She emphasized that humanity's strength was in their intelligence and judgment, not just in their weapons or technology. The alien continued to communicate, showing humanity what had happened to civilizations that failed to recognize the consequences of their actions. Some had attempted to dominate others, only to be overpowered by the resilience and unpredictability of their targets. Others had been destroyed by internal conflict when fear and aggression replaced wisdom and patience. Elena shared these examples widely, hoping that humans would see themselves in these stories and learn from the experiences of others. Public opinion began to shift. Fearful speculation gradually gave way to cautious curiosity. People were inspired by the possibility of learning from a civilization far more advanced than their own. There was a growing sense of responsibility and accountability. Humanity realized that their actions both individually and collectively mattered on a larger scale than they had ever imagined. The aliens' warning was no longer just about defense, it was about understanding their place in the universe and the potential consequences of their behavior. Elena often reflected on the aliens' lessons late at night. She thought about human history, the wars, inventions, and moments of courage that had shaped civilization. She realized that the aliens' observations were accurate, humans were clever, resilient, and determined. The species had survived countless challenges, adapted to countless dangers, and always found ways to endure. But the alien also reminded her that intelligence came with responsibility. Humans could use their strength for creation or destruction, and their choices mattered more than ever. The aliens' presence also inspired new scientific collaborations. Teams from different countries worked together for the first time on a global scale, sharing observations, research, and insights. Elena guided these efforts, ensuring that humans approached the alien with respect and patience. Slowly, the alien became a teacher as well as a visitor, showing humanity how to think beyond fear, how to act wisely, and how to value understanding over aggression. One day, the alien shared an image that stayed with Elena forever, a vast galaxy filled with planets, stars, and civilizations, each at different stages of development. Some were thriving, some were struggling, and some had vanished entirely. The message was clear: survival depended not only on strength but also on foresight, cooperation, and moral judgment. Elena realized that humanity had been given a rare opportunity to learn from these experiences and to make choices that could shape the future for generations. Even as understanding grew, the world remained cautious. Humans knew that the alien could leave at any moment, and with it, the opportunity for insight and growth could vanish. Leaders, scientists, and citizens alike understood that the lessons they learned in these days could define humanity's path. Elena often reminded herself and others that the aliens' warning was not a threat but a guide. Humans had the potential to act wisely, but only if they recognized their own power and responsibility. The aliens' final message before parting from this stage of the encounter was clear and powerful. Through telepathy, it conveyed images and words that summarized the lessons of the past weeks. Humans were resilient, clever, and capable of extraordinary persistence. They could face challenges, defend themselves, and adapt in ways other civilizations could not. But with that power came responsibility. Every choice mattered, every action had consequences, and understanding was the key to survival. Elena felt the weight of the message deeply. She knew that humanity had been tested not by aggression, but by the need to recognize their own nature and potential. As the alien began to retreat from close observation, humanity was left with profound insights. Leaders began integrating these lessons into policy, education, and global collaboration. Scientists continued studying the information provided, inspired to create a better future. People everywhere reflected on the implications of the encounter, on their role in the universe, and on the importance of patience, understanding, and wisdom. Elena knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity had been given knowledge, guidance, and a mirror to reflect upon itself. How they used it would determine the course of their history. By the end of this part of the story, the alien had transformed from a mysterious visitor into a teacher, guiding humanity to a deeper understanding of itself. The warning had become a lesson, the observation a reflection, and the encounter a turning point. Humanity had begun to see its strengths, its responsibilities, and its potential in ways that were previously unimaginable. Elena Morales, standing under the vast night sky, understood that this moment would be remembered for generations. The alien had come with a warning, but it had left humanity with something far more valuable: knowledge, perspective, and the chance to grow wiser than ever before. The day the alien began to depart was unlike any other. The skies above the remote valley were filled with anticipation, a mixture of awe, respect, and nervousness. People had come from far and wide to witness this final moment of first contact. Governments, scientists, and civilians watched silently, their eyes fixed on the shimmering craft that had changed the world in ways no one could have imagined. Dr. Elena Morales stood at the edge of the observation point, her heart pounding with a mix of emotions. She felt gratitude, curiosity, and a profound sense of responsibility for everything that had happened. The alien remained calm, radiating a presence that was both powerful and reassuring. For weeks, it had shared its knowledge, observations, and warnings. It had taught humans about patience, reflection, and understanding. It had revealed the strength of humanity, the cleverness, adaptability, and persistence that made humans unique in the galaxy. But now, as it prepared to leave, the alien communicated one final message. Its telepathic words and images filled Elena's mind with clarity. Humans were capable of incredible resilience, but the future depended on how wisely they used their intelligence and knowledge. Before leaving, the alien shared gifts that would benefit humanity in ways previously unimaginable. It revealed advanced technologies for energy production, communication, and space exploration. Each piece of information was presented carefully, with instructions on how to use it responsibly. Scientists and engineers from around the world worked tirelessly to document and understand every detail. Elena watched as teams collaborated across borders, united by a common purpose: to learn from this extraordinary visitor and apply its wisdom for the benefit of all. The world responded in different ways. Some nations immediately integrated the knowledge into scientific research programs, developing new methods for sustainable energy, faster communication, and advanced environmental monitoring. Others focused on education, using the aliens' teachings to inspire curiosity and ethical thinking in schools and communities. People everywhere reflected on the lessons they had received. Fear and suspicion began to give way to hope, creativity, and cooperation. Elena felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that humanity had begun to embrace the opportunity the alien had provided. Despite the progress, there was also a sense of caution. Leaders understood that humans had been given immense knowledge, but it came with responsibility. The alien had warned that intelligence without wisdom could be dangerous. It had shown images of civilizations that had failed because they misused their power or acted without understanding. Elena emphasized this lesson constantly, reminding governments, scientists, and the public that the choices they made now would define the course of history. Humanity had been tested, not by war, but by the need to recognize its own potential and act responsibly. As the alien prepared to depart, Elena noticed a change in the atmosphere. The craft's lights shimmered more brightly, reflecting the rising sun. People felt an almost tangible sense of connection, as if the alien was acknowledging their growth and readiness. Its presence had been a challenge, a teacher, and a mirror reflecting human nature. It had tested humanity not with aggression but with opportunity, showing them their strengths and the importance of using them wisely. The lessons were clear: knowledge, patience, and understanding were as vital as courage and resilience. The departure itself was quiet and majestic. The craft lifted effortlessly, moving gracefully into the sky. It did not flee or retreat in fear. It did not attack or demand submission. Instead, it left with dignity and purpose, leaving humanity to reflect on what had been learned. Elena felt a mixture of relief and inspiration. The alien's presence had changed everything, yet it had left no threat behind, only guidance, knowledge, and a challenge to act responsibly. In the days following the departure, humanity began to internalize the lessons fully. Scientists continued to study the technologies and insights provided, discovering applications that could improve life for everyone on Earth. Engineers designed new systems for energy, communication, and space exploration. Communities focused on cooperation, using the aliens' example to encourage understanding and dialogue rather than conflict. Even ordinary citizens felt the impact, inspired to learn, innovate, and work together for the greater good. Elena reflected on the journey that had begun with fear and uncertainty. The alien had arrived as a mystery, a presence that sparked panic, curiosity, and debate. But through patience, communication, and understanding, humanity had discovered something far more valuable: insight into its own nature. People had learned that strength alone was not enough, that cleverness without wisdom could lead to destruction, and that the greatest achievements came from cooperation, patience, and reflection. The world also began to appreciate the aliens' perspective on human resilience. Governments, military leaders, and scientists saw that humans had an extraordinary ability to adapt, persevere, and defend their home. They realized that the aliens' warning had been both a caution and a compliment. Humans were formidable, but their power needed to be tempered with wisdom. Elena often thought about the phrase that had defined the encounter: "They will never let you flee." It was not a threat, it was a reminder of humanity's determination, courage, and commitment to survival. The encounter inspired a new era of exploration and learning. People looked to the sky with renewed curiosity, imagining the possibilities that lay beyond Earth. Educational programs focused on science, ethics, and space studies flourished. International collaboration became stronger, with nations working together to share discoveries and prevent conflict. The alien had not only left knowledge but also a vision of a better future, one built on understanding, responsibility, and the recognition of humanity's unique strengths. Elena herself continued her work, becoming a respected leader and mentor in the new era. She shared the aliens' lessons widely, encouraging people to balance curiosity with caution, courage with wisdom, and action with reflection. She reminded everyone that the encounter had been a rare opportunity to see humanity from an outside perspective and that the choices made in the coming years would shape generations. The aliens' departure was not the end, it was the beginning of a journey toward knowledge, growth, and understanding. Even years later, people remembered the aliens' visit with awe and respect. The phrase "do not attack, they will never let you flee" became a symbol of humanity's resilience, intelligence, and responsibility. Stories of the encounter were told in schools, research centers, and homes around the world. It was a story of fear transformed into understanding, of curiosity balanced with caution, and of a species learning to recognize its own potential. In the quiet moments, Elena often looked at the stars, remembering the aliens' presence and the lessons it had taught. She thought about how fragile and powerful humanity was, how much could be achieved with understanding, and how dangerous impatience and aggression could be. She knew that the alien had left not only technology but also a legacy, a reminder that intelligence was not enough, that wisdom and responsibility were essential for survival and growth. The story closed with a sense of hope and responsibility. Humanity had been given an extraordinary opportunity, one that required reflection, courage, and care. The alien had arrived as a stranger from the stars, delivered a warning, shared its knowledge, and departed with dignity. But it had left behind something far greater than technology or insight. It had left humanity with a chance to understand itself, to grow wiser, and to embrace the responsibility that came with its unique strengths. Elena Morales stood under the night sky, reflecting on the journey that had begun with fear and uncertainty and had ended with knowledge, respect, and hope. She understood that humanity had been tested, not through battle, but through understanding, patience, and reflection. The alien had shown that humans were capable of incredible resilience and strength, but it had also reminded them of the importance of choice, responsibility, and wisdom. The encounter would forever shape the course of human history, inspiring generations to come to explore, learn, and act with courage and understanding. And as she gazed at the stars, Elena felt a quiet certainty: the universe was vast, full of mysteries, and humanity had only just begun to understand its place within it. The alien had left, but its lessons would remain forever, guiding humans toward a future where knowledge, wisdom, and cooperation could lead to greatness. Humanity had been challenged, tested, and inspired, and it had risen to meet the moment. The stars above seemed brighter now, not just with light, but with possibility, hope, and the promise of discovery.